Hello everyone, welcome to Lnenburg360. My name is Dave Matthews and I'll be your host. If you're wondering what is Lnenburg360, it's an idea we had from the last few years I've spent serving on different boards and committees here in town. I've met a bunch of wonderful people, interesting people, intelligent people, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to bring some of them to you in case you haven't had a chance to meet them. So the concept of the show is to take a 360-degree look at Lnenburg. So we'll look at some municipal things, some government things, some community interests, and just focus really on the people in this town, because we have a lot of good, fun people that I'm sure you'll find interesting. So with that, tonight we're going to start with Lisa Normandin from the Lnenburg Family Lions Club and introduce you to some of the work they do every year, the valuable work they do in our community, and just give you a chance to get to know them. All right, well, our first guest this evening will be Lisa Normandin. She's the president of the Lnenburg Turkey Hill Family Lions Club. And again, the Lions Club does an awful lot of work here in town. You know, again, I've served in government for the past few years, but I've always known and tried to indicate and show appreciation for the work that the community groups in town actually do in this town. It's a wonderful thing. And a leading group is the Lions Club, and this is Lisa. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing very well.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Inaugural show, so we get a little jitters here, a little rookie-itis going on, so bear with me, bear with us. And what we hope to do is, again, I think a lot of people in town know about the Lions Club. I think many more probably could learn about what the Lions Club does, because you guys do a lot of good work. So if you could kind of give us an overview of what the club is and what it does, and we can go from there.
Okay, I'd be happy to. The Lions Club in Lnenburg is a service organization. It's worldwide, and our club was chartered in 2007. They were paired with the Fitchburg Club, and then they broke apart, so Lnenburg has its own club. I was the president for 2 years, and someone took the reins for 3 years, and I'm back. The former president, Lisa Nelson, opted to move higher in Lionism, and I'm happy just where I am in the town of Lnenburg. I'm a lifelong resident of town. I graduated from Lnenburg High. I work for the town of Lnenburg, and I've been there for 33 years. So I'm in town. People, I think they know my face, and they know I'm the president of the club again. This is my second year after the 2 years I did serve prior. And so some of the things that we do is we hold a spring road toll up in the center of town. We used to do it in Whalum as well, but it's hard to find a lot of people willing to stand in the middle of the road. It's not so bad up in the center, but sometimes in Whalum it gets a little...
It's pretty high speed.
It is. And you don't get all Lnenburg people there, so they're not as willing.
Okay.
So we do that in the spring and fall, and that usually nets, about $2,000.
Okay.
This time, we decided to do it on election day because there was a track meet, and the election folks were getting out to vote.
Yeah.
And there was we had a bake sale.
Yes.
So we made $1,125 in our bake sale, and we made over $2,100 in our road toll. And an anonymous we got an anonymous donation of $2,000.
Wow.
So that day we made over $5,300.
That's fantastic.
So our coffers were getting a little bit low. We do keep the food pantry money separate. We, in coordination with the Lnenburg Community Council, run the community food pantry. That's located at the fire station. And Jane Doyle is the president of the Lnenburg Community Council, and she's also a Lion.
Okay.
So my food coordinator, Dave Berthium, works pretty closely with Jane, and they take care of the food pantry. I don't have a lot to do with it, other than reporting to whoever needs to know, and a lot of people contact me if they're in need.
Okay.
So last month we served 70 families in the town of Lnenburg.
And that's something that's important for people to understand, that Lnenburg is it's a prosperous town in a lot of ways. It's a very diverse town, and people sometimes lose sight that there's a range of need in town. There's a range of opportunities to help people in town, and it's not all everyone's driving BMWs and great big suburban spreads. It's a different range of folks that live in town, so we always need to keep in mind everyone as we're making decisions as a town. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and the need has just grown. So I've tried to introduce some fresh ideas. We held a meat bingo.
Yeah, that was new, right?
Yes, that was very new. I fashioned that after the Townsend VFW did it. So I went to check it out, and it was great fun. I was a little bit nervous on the evening that we held it.
Sure.
We had it at the Lnenburg Sportsman's Club, which is a venue I hadn't been in many, many years. And it was really successful. We
Great.
packed the place. We made $1,990 in 2 hours. Of course, there was
Good
a lot of
return.
back, work.
Sure.
But that night, it was so much fun, all ages, family. We are a family club, so children are always welcome at our events. We did get a one-day beer and wine license. I mean, that was just to have it, to draw people. We didn't, make a killing on it or anything,
Right.
but it was just a really fun night, and we want to do that again in September, and then right before Thanksgiving, because
Okay.
we do over 100 food baskets as
Yeah.
well for Thanksgiving.
Right, that's a big effort on your part. And it's nice that with the meat bingo, again, it's a fun night out. You can give, you can support things and have some laughs, so.
And win some meat.
I mean, win some meat, nothing worse than going home, nothing better, than going home with 3-4 pounds of meat,
And one of the Lions generously donated $250 for the meat.
Wow,
For the first one, just to see,
sure,
and then when the people started coming in, I was thrilled.
yeah,
It was just a great feeling.
fantastic. It's one of those things, is once you get the inaugural one out of the way, people get comfortable with it, word spreads, so I'm sure it's just gonna grow, so that's fantastic.
I'm hoping,
Yeah.
hoping. I'm trying to think of some of the other good things we do.
Well, the holiday baskets, the Thanksgiving baskets, that's something, at some point down the road, as we're putting the show together, I think I've indicated to you, at some point I want to meet with Dave, spend some time with Dave as he does the food pantry. Spend some time with the whole basket organization, because I know there's a lot of work goes into that, and a lot of people come down to the public safety building and help put that all together. So that'll be an interesting thing to show folks at a later date, a later segment, so I'm looking forward to that, but that's a big effort.
Yeah, absolutely. The Scouts help. We get a lot of help from the National Honor Society students. But we always do the first band concert, and that band concert, we have a bake sale, and we always give away hot dogs and popcorn and water and juice for the kids as a thank you to the community for everybody who supports us.
That's great, that's wonderful, fantastic. Bake sale seemed to be a big thing. Seemed to really
We
work.
did really well, and not only did the Lions bake, but we had the women at Town Hall bake. I had my friends and my neighbors and
Yeah.
anybody who I could get to bake.
Well, again, the recurrent theme seems to be that a bunch of different organizations kind of work together on these things, and it's just an indication of the depth of the town, the depth of giving in the town, the depth of caring in the town, that people are willing to jump in and help. And, it's you, it's the Scouts, it's all these different groups, so it's wonderful.
Yeah, we meet on the second Tuesday of the month at the Lnenburg Public Library, and we had 3 new members at our meeting Tuesday night that joined, so I was thrilled about that. So we like to get a lot of press in the Ledger so people know we're out there, and just get people to join and come and have some fun.
Great. Now, if people want to join, if they're watching the show and they kind of get an idea of what they could do, or they want to learn more about the Lions Club, how can they do that?
Well, they can contact me by phone or by email.
Okay.
My email address is lnormandon1@comcast.net, and my cell phone number is 978-400-1614.
Nice. And we'll have that on the scroll. Hopefully people are seeing that. In post-production, we'll add that.
Yeah, we have 68 members now, the 3 from the other night, and
Okay.
I have 2 more people of interest.
Wonderful. Well, I hope it continues to grow.
So do I, because it just makes you feel really,
Yeah.
really warm inside to help others.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Well, thank you for all your efforts, and thank you to everyone in the Lions Club for the work they do. It's fantastic, and it's appreciated. And I know it's noted throughout town. People often comment on the work you folks do, so thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay. Our next guest tonight will be Jamie Toll. He's a member of the Board of Selectmen and Chairman of the Building Reuse Committee. We're going to talk a little bit about the Reuse Committee and what its tasks and what its goals are. As you know, folks know, there's going to be a lot of changes here in the center of town as our new middle school, high school project comes online. So we have a number of buildings that are available for reuse or surplus or whatever it might be. So Jamie has been tasked with his group of 11 members to take a look at the options. 9 members. Just feels like 11 sometimes. to look at the options, and they've done a lot of work already. So, Jamie, if you could, well, thanks for coming. Good
Thank
to see
you.
you. Appreciate
Thank
you being by.
Glad to be here.
If you could kind of give folks at home an overview of what the committee has done and what it's looking forward to, please.
Sure. As you mentioned, Dave, the committee was chartered by the Board of Selectmen to look at properties in town that have been deemed underutilized. And our purpose is to take a look at them, assess their value, and make some recommendations to the town as to what might be a better use for them or the use for them. The committee is made up of 9 people, as you mentioned, and they represent various constituencies in town. There are representatives of the Historical Commission and the Planning Board and the Finance Committee, et cetera. But there's also some members at large who bring an expertise to the table, either in architecture or development, real estate, et cetera. And we have available to us, we have other volunteers that have agreed to help us with commercial development and assessment of some of the things we're looking at. So the project's main objective is to make recommendations, basically. And our choices, obviously, are to reuse these buildings for municipal purposes, or any of them, to make them available for sale and generate revenue for the town, both in terms of the sale of the property itself and any taxable revenue that comes in as a result of it, and also to look at opportunities to reduce or moderate capital expense and operating costs.
Sure.
For this portfolio.
Cost avoidance.
Right,
Sure.
exactly.
Okay. So far, I mean, again, a lot of work's been done. And you've come forward, the committee's come forward with some suggestions for what we should do, say, with Town Hall, with this building, TC Passios, with the Ritter building, and now the old primary school. Because, of course, the old primary school had been under the control of a developer for the last number of years. He was trying to develop it as affordable senior housing, and that was done by the Board of Selectmen based on the input of a number of seniors who came to Town Hall and really argued hard and fast that, we need some more options for our seniors in town. Regrettably, with the funding disappearing from HUD and other sources, he hasn't been able to get funding, so that's come onto your plate where it had not been in the past. So with that all said, there's a bunch of different options, of course, for what could be done with the building. So what's the take so far, suggestions of the committee, what we should do with each?
The recommendations of the committee, Dave, and maybe I can take them just quickly. The Eagle House, we believe, is an adequate usage right now. It meets their needs, and it should meet their future needs. Okay. So the Eagle House, although it was part of our original portfolio, we recommended that it stay as it is. Town Hall, obviously, for a number of reasons. One, for its sentimental value. One, for the fact that we've assessed that it could, with some rehabilitation, be an excellent town municipal building and hold our offices to serve the town.
And that would be all the offices, right?
All the offices, all the customer-facing, if you will,
Okay.
parts of the town government.
So that kind of pushes Ritter to be in
Right.
potential other uses.
As a result,
Okay.
that would make the Ritter underutilized or not utilized, and the Ritter, and as you mentioned, the old primary school and the Brooks House, actually,
Yeah, forgot about that
would be considered underutilized, and we would be looking for alternative uses for those properties.
Okay.
One of the reasons that the board has such a large grouping is that there are several constituencies who come to the group representing the interests of the Historical Commission or the Planning Board, et cetera.
Sure.
But at the same time, they're working cooperatively as a board to try to give the town the most options. And as we go forward, we'll be working closely with the Planning Board, for instance, to ensure that there are no unnecessary restrictions on the possibilities for future use, whether they be commercial use or mixed use, et cetera. That dovetails quite nicely with a lot of the village planning, village zoning that they're working on. The Historical Commission is committed to work with us as well to ensure that we maintain the historical value of the town center.
Sure.
Where all of these particular buildings reside in our
Yeah.
town center.
I think that message, I think we've heard for years from a number of different sources that people really value, our town center, the historical, history that goes with it, and people want to maintain small town feel here in Lunenburg. Same time, there's also a push to get more commercial development in town to take some of the tax burden off the residential folks, and also just give us a more vibrant town center. Because again, we've had a town center for decades that has been really driven by a few homes, a little bit of business, and then it's all municipal and churches, which are all wonderful. You need all these and you want all these, but there's an opportunity perhaps for Lnenburg to get a little more diverse here at the town center without massive change. So,
An ideal outcome for us, Dave, is to come up with a plan that we can present to the town that does a couple of things. One, it reduces the operating expense that the town has to maintain these buildings. Two, it generates some revenue. But three, it also provides a town center that's attractive and useful and makes people want to congregate in the downtown area. So, that's our objective, is to make all those things come together. And I want to stress the point that the committee is chartered to make recommendations, and the town will decide, what's a good investment, what's a good cost to pay, and what's a good use of the town center. What we want to do is make it an educated decision and one that's feasibly reasonable.
okay, good, excellent. Yeah, I mean, as you said, I mean, this is a decision the Board of Selectmen will make. The planning board's going to have a huge piece on it. Historical Commission's going to weigh in on it because they bring a lot of value and a lot of depth to it. And then ultimately, it's going to be the voters who will decide at some point in town meeting what's going to happen with these buildings. So it's important, everyone at home to please, try to pay attention to these conversations, get involved. I know Jamie wants your input. We all want your input. Folks at home, give us as much direction as you can because it's your town center. And we want to have as much input as possible so we're all working in the same direction.
Right, and I think that everybody does have an opinion.
Oh, sure.
It's important that we hear those opinions.
Right.
It's important that we get an opportunity to build them into our plans.
Right.
And where we anticipate a lot of opportunities for outreach and to ask for those opinions, but I also would like to stress that our meetings are open to the public. Certainly, we're welcome to input from anybody.
Right.
And they can get information to me through town hall or.
Okay. And I know Damon McQuaid, one of the members who represents the planning board, was also a member of the historical commission, but his role in the Reuse committee is representing the planning board. He's had a great idea to have some visioning sessions open to the public, probably do it at the library, kind of show people what we used to have in town center, because there was a whole range of businesses that people don't remember because they've been gone so long. I mean, everything from matchstick manufacturers, to taverns and all these other things that used to be here in town. So it'd be interesting to kind of look back before we look ahead.
That's right.
Because we're all used to the model we have today, but there's a lot of variety that's out there for us while maintaining Lnenburg.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And are there any obstacles that you see now going forward? I know zoning's a question, just because we could update that.
Zoning as it currently exists, Dave, is all residential in the center of town. So it doesn't give us a lot of options.
Yeah.
And I think our objective is to look at the village zoning situation as a whole and determine if there are ways to maintain the charm of Lnenburg, but at the same time not restrict our possibilities.
Sure. And I know the planning board's been working on that for a while,
That's right.
and they're starting to gear up to get more into that. So it'll be an interesting few months.
And the planning board and the reuse committee are planning a joint workshop to begin working that cooperation at a more practical level.
Excellent. And again, this is all going to be driven by cooperation. So looking forward to everyone working together and coming up with a final, attainable goal, as you said, in the end, that we can all agree on. Maybe not 100%, but we'll get to consensus and bring it forward. So it'll be a good process. Looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other messages for folks as we?
No, just that it takes some time, and there are several kind of phases of this that are going to require town meeting votes, and we are trying to be as aggressive as we can to have good, solid recommendations by the next town meeting. But there'll probably be phases where we approve pieces of it with an idea of the big plan, and then approve future phases as the next town meetings come along.
Okay. I mean, a timeline perspective, this is, again, a lot of this is hinged on the high school, middle school project. I mean, that's not broken ground yet. We've still got a couple of years before we see that come to fruition. So that, once that opens, that will free up buildings. So these are the steps that everyone's working towards, so that plan is in place going forward, so that we can, one thing opens, something comes available, we can move on that as a whole. So trying to have a proactive approach to this, which I appreciate you leading the charge on that. So
Thank you.
it'll be
And
nice.
I'd just like to make the point that I want the town hall painted as much as anybody else does, but it kind of doesn't make sense to do it as we're talking about what might be a major renovation in the real near future.
And I think that's a frustration a lot of people have, because you look at it, it's an eyesore. It's become almost an embarrassment, and it's something that it would be great to get a coat of paint on there, but it makes no sense to do that if you're going to be pulling things apart and reorganizing it. So, but I know that's high on everyone's priority, so I
Right.
can't back that enough. Get to a place where we can get that thing cleaned up, so we can be proud of it again. So, okay. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming by. We're going to have many more segments going forward that'll be related, so I'm sure you'll be back by. My hope is that we're going to have segments dedicated to this building, TC Passios, and the history of it. I know the Passios family has we still have Passios family here in town, so this school was named for them. A little bit later, Pete Lincoln's going to kind of give us an introduction to that. I hope we'll also take a look at the Ritter building, the history behind that, how the town came to own that building, talk about the Ritter family or the history behind that building, and again, just kind of give a growing overview in time over what's going on with this. So,
And I think the work of the Historic Commission on what Town Center used to look like and
Yeah.
is probably a natural for your show as well.
oh, without a doubt, can't wait to get them in front of us. So,
Great.
It'll be a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right.
Our next guest this evening will be Pete Lincoln. Pete's a member of the Historical Society and a long-serving member of the Council on Aging and a retired school teacher here in town and a number of other things. Pete's going to kind of give us an overview of our schools and the building history now. And hello, Pete. How you doing?
Very well.
Good to see you.
And thank you for having me as a guest on
Thank
your
you.
inaugural show here on Lnenburg360.
Aren't you glad you came by to watch?
Absolutely.
Put you right into service, because that's how we roll.
Well, it's interesting that we are filming this in the Passios building because that is one of the buildings that is up for consideration of what will happen to it. And I thought it might be interesting to the town to learn the history of this building and how it came to be in the first place.
Sure.
In the late 19th century, a law was passed that every school had to provide education for students through 12th grade or to tuition them out to other schools. Up to this point, all Lnenburg kids had gone to Fitchburg
Really?
or local other schools. Cushing Academy had a lot of kids go there. But by the late, I think it was 1897, we graduated our very first Lnenburg High School graduate, a fellow named Leroy Lancey. He was number one. And in that time,
Was it a class of one?
a class of one,
Okay.
one kid.
That's a small town.
And there was 3s, 2s, 1s, 5s for the first 10 years or so. And they were all educated in the town hall. It was originally the high school. I want to say, I don't have my dates exactly straight, but during World War I, perhaps a little earlier, a building was built where the Historical Society is now. And that housed the high school for maybe 15 years. That was eventually torn down, and the current primary school was the high school up until 1952. Now here's how this town grew. In 1952, there were 40 graduates of Lnenburg High School. By the time I came here, 10 years later, there were 140.
Wow.
So what happened was, at that point, the school realized housing was a critical need for the school children. And in 1953, this building was built and became the high school. It also became the place for the town meetings, which at that time, up to that time, were held in the town hall on the second floor where the selectmen meet. That was the place for the town halls. Also was the basketball court for the schools.
Yeah, I've heard that people used to, not
Pretty
that long ago.
Low
people played
ceiling
basketball.
shots. And so for 6 years, this was the high school and town meetings. In 1958, the current high school here was built, and this became a 1 through 6 building. But that isn't entirely accurate because there was a large elementary school in Whalum called the, can't remember the name of it. It was on Whalum Road down where the VFW used to be. And it was a school that had most of the elementary kids there, but I think there were a couple others as well. I'd have to check that. And then when this building was originally built, it was 1 through 6, and this was 7 through 12. It was called Junior Senior High School.
Huh.
By 1969, the middle school was built. So we built 3 enormous school projects within 2 decades, within 16 years, to house this huge number of kids.
So as we look at the state of Lnenburg, and there's a lot of concern with the explosive growth, because there's been a fair amount of growth already, and I know there's a lot projected.
I
I've been
just
down this road
read
before.
that Boston.com said Lnenburg is the 2nd largest growing community in the state.
Which is amazing.
1,000 people in the last 3 years.
Okay.
So
That's,
maybe a need for a new one. Now, the way this came to be called the Passios School was that Tom Passios was an elementary school teacher here, and when this school became the elementary school, when the high school was built, he was the first principal.
okay.
He hired me.
Really?
You know, he
Okay.
and Floyd Barney were the ones that came up to UMass and picked me up.
No kidding.
I can recall when I walked into the interview, they were arguing about whether the AFL would survive. Because Floyd said never, no way, and Tom said it would, so he was right on that account.
There we go.
And unfortunately, Mr. Passios passed away at a fairly young age, and because he was the first principal and was a highly regarded individual and a pioneer in the building, the school was named in his honor. His children all went through the school. He lived on Highland Street, and his son, I believe, still lives in town. There's still Passios here. That's how they came to be.
Without a doubt, yep.
Now, what has happened is with the type of buildings that were built in the 50s, you know, the difficult, flat roofed buildings, a lot of problems arose because of a lot of leakage. And the fact that the heating system for the high school was pumped from this building down there has caused numerous problems over the years, difficulties and leaks and buildings being shut down. And so essentially, all 3 of these 2 buildings especially are obsolete.
Right.
To be used as schools in any case.
Which is why we've
So
got.
I think the task that this force has got to try to determine whether this building is worth saving, put into some of the capacity, or demolish.
It's going to be a challenge, and there's a high cost to demolishing the building because there's a fair amount of asbestos throughout it.
That's right.
So a big part of the discussion is what to do with this building. You know, since it's not going to be a municipal use going forward, it's cost avoidance on that money because there's, you know, if we can get a developer to come in or find another use for it, and we can avoid demolition, and we'll save about $1 million.
Well, this is a wonderful place for this studio.
Oh, it's fantastic.
When you start getting sponsors for this show, that probably could kick
Yeah, we
in
just need
some
about
money.
48 more, you know, shows going at the same
That's
time.
right.
We'll be all right.
There's a lot of sentiment attached to these buildings.
Oh, sure.
People who went to school here or worked here
Yeah.
feel very strongly about maintaining it as it was. It can't be, but
Right.
it was. I know when they tear the high school down, I want to get all the bricks.
Maybe there's a fundraiser there. Maybe there's something
Could
we
be.
can do with that.
It could
I mean, There's
be.
a lot of equipment. that
That's
can
true.
handle
They
that,
could
right?
be.
So, yeah, there's a lot of sentiment.
A lot of
A lot
things
of
you
people.
could
Hey, my kids went to the school, so
That's right.
I went to the old primary school. And actually, I'm quite glad to see that one go offline. But
Well,
as a school.
it was state of the art at one point.
Oh, sure.
They had a chem
all
lab
were.
in there that was quite exciting, quite exciting, actually.
I know a lot of people probably look at this and think of it as the new school still. You know, that happens.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
but it's 50, 60 years later.
That's
so
right.
It's time for the next page. So, anyway, I mean, going forward, we'll have more discussions about, I want to get into more in-depth discussion about this building, about Mr. Passios. So, hopefully we'll get the Passios family involved, et cetera, and do the same thing with some of the other buildings. So this is a good first step. So I appreciate you opening the door, and I'm sure we'll talk more going forward. And
Well, I've got to get the opportunity. Thank you
good
very
to
much,
see you.
Dave.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, everyone, that wraps up the show for this week or this month. I'm not sure how often we'll be on the air. But again, looking forward to bringing you more interesting people from your town. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for people that maybe we should talk to, or we could go visit if they've got some interesting things going on in their locations, you know, let us know. You can get us at, is it Lnenburg360@gmail.com, send an email, or give us a shout, and we'll look forward to bringing you more Lnenburg folks, Lnenburg operations from Lnenburg360. So thank you very much. Good night.